Carmarga, Terry, Corja, Colagana, Zina Specialista, Wadham Reduce, Fodges, Cllr, Gaiv, Oscar, Garen Galway, and Lambra, Even Shop. Carmarga was on the chance of Operod, like Tus on Cordona, Tall Tuck Shop. Chairman of the BMW Assembly, distinguished visitors, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you for the chance to say a few words at the launch of this very important conference. We are committed to, as I said, to supporting the BMW region, and we're certainly committed to the theme of this conference. We see regional innovation as certainly a catalyst for sustainable economic growth in this region. Last Wednesday, the Irish Times had an editorial. I'm going to quote a little piece from it for you that I'm going to ask you to think when it could have been written. It reads as follows. The title was Neglecting the West. So let me start. Now that the President-elect, the Taoiseach and the Tánaiste all hail from the west of Ireland, consideration may be given to the development of that largely neglected region. Modern infrastructure deficiencies in terms of broadband speeds, area supplies and transport have made it difficult to attract investment or to develop local enterprises. End of quotation. If you drop the word broadband, that could have been written 60, 70 years ago. It wouldn't have changed. I think it's an important statement to make, but nothing has actually changed. The word broadband is the only thing that's different from what could have been said 70 years ago. We are still in a situation where the West is neglected, and badly neglected. And we know that. Even the Irish Times, 2004 oriented paper, knows that. So I think in that context, this conference is really very important. We have to assert the importance of this region, and also the importance of innovation to develop this region. Because it's clear that if the countries develop, it can develop through its regions. And in many ways, that's how Europe is seen now. Europe is seen not as a set of nation states, but as a collection of regions, each of which have individual problems. And we certainly have our issues here. In this university, we are committed, as was already indicated, to working with our partners in the region to develop the region. Let me quote from our strategic plan, which was written 2 years ago and carries us through 2014. The plan talks about promoting and providing support for an innovative, knowledge-driven and competitive region in line with the National Space Strategy and the BMW Assembly Foresight Report. This will be achieved by working in partnership with the community, public and private organisations to support them, where appropriate and feasible, developing human capital and furthering the social, culture, economic and industrial development of our region. And in that context, CISC is an important centre of the university, because CISC, as the name suggests, is concerned about innovation and structural change. And over the past 9 or so years, CISC has developed into the largest institute in the country, working on the theme of innovation. It has made significant contributions. It has achieved levels of funding from all the PRTL programs in recent years, and has also, I think, contributed to the development of a lot of thought around innovation in this part of the country. For example, the CISC researchers were involved in the audit of the innovation system in the BMW region, commissioned by the Regional Assembly. They were also involved in the economic impact assessment of the creative sector in the west of Ireland, commissioned by the Western Development Commission. And they also recently were involved in a report on change and crisis in Ireland, commissioned by the Australian Skills Commission. CISC has also developed probably the single most important database on the Irish industrial cluster, the Lucerne database, which provides very deep understanding of the medical devices sector in this part of the country. Shows, for example, how the cluster has emerged and characterises it in terms of all the various players and their roles in it. As well as that, CISC has made a contribution to public policy through, for example, through the development, through the input into the Strategy for Science, Technology and Innovation in 2006. It has worked in terms of the first document on service strategy for Ireland, that report produced in 2008. And CISC was also involved in the Innovation Task Force and helping to develop the recommendations from that task force. So in that sense, it's appropriate that CISC would play a role in this, with the BMW Assembly in this area for this kind of work. I think its audit of innovation system in the Northern Midlands and Western region is important. I think it's an important statement of what's happening here. It's an important statement about our capacity, our potential is to grow. I think we owe congratulations to the people who developed that report, Paul Ryan and Dr. Das. I think their work is important in terms of how it has led to a documentation of articulation of what is going on in the West in terms of regional relation. I also want to welcome today colleagues coming from overseas to this conference. I think it's great to have a view from outside of what's happening in the West of Ireland. In that context, Professor Fuchs from the University of Stuttgart, I think has an important contribution to make in terms of putting the public policy on innovation into a wider context. I think the presentation from Dr. Patrick Collins from CISC will be important in terms of indicating how exactly multinational corporations, those involved in FDI, how they, if you like, make decisions around locating investment in Ireland. I think it's also good to have an industrial view, and in that context, Peter Riley from Vallejo, based in Tuam, is important in that he will talk to us about what is possible around industry-academia collaboration to further innovation. I think there's a very good collaboration between this company and the university through the College Automotive Research Group and the Electronic Engineering Group. The issue on academic industry collaboration is an interesting one which we are committed to furthering. I would say we recognise the difficulties of achieving that in practice. We recognise industry and academia work to a somewhat different clock, with a different heartbeat. Industry perhaps has a shorter term set of needs. Its products are on a shorter product life cycle. It is under much greater pressure in terms of market and more responsive. It has to be to short-term market fluctuations. Universities operate through a somewhat different system. Our products tend to be lifelong. Our main products are human capital. It's graduates, whether bachelor's or master's or PhDs. All of them spend significant time being produced, if you want to use that analogy. 4 years in the case of a bachelor degree, perhaps 4 years also for a PhD. And all of them, if you like, contribute over a lifetime. So our clock is different, our perspective is different. And that makes collaboration challenging. I don't say impossible, but certainly challenging. I think that sometimes accounts for the difference between the academics and the industry people in terms of how they sort of see the output of collaboration. We, as I say, we operate with a somewhat different horizon. But having said that, we share a tremendous amount in terms of our need, first of all, to ensure that the graduates of the universities understand needs of industry and are well prepared to contribute from day one to industry. Also, the need for industry to work with academia to ensure that the work that we're doing here in terms of research has some relevance to the short-term needs of industry. I think that's something we have to work very hard at, because even our assessment systems, in terms of how we assess research, this particularly so in the context of ranking systems, where assessment of research is driven largely by academic measures of impact, measures through citations and publications, which often have very little relevance to industry. There's a balance to be struck there, and we have a big challenge in terms of how we, if you like, encourage our academics to, on the one hand, contribute to the university and its esteem and its recognition through ranking systems around citations, on the other hand, contribute to its region and to its industrial partners around their need and their valid need and the taxpayers' valid expectation of return on investment of research. And that's something that I think we're grappling with as institutions. I think the state's grappling with it. I think we need help in terms of achieving that. And we certainly are interested as a university in working with industry and with all the stakeholders to ensure that we feel like we manage that tension between the long-term academic need for recognition around citation and publications and the short-term valid taxpayer and industrial need for impact around the economic and social development of our region. I think it's a cultural issue inside the universities around this, and we have a job to do internally. I think we're trying to do that through technology transfer offices, to convince academics to manage, if you like, that tension between short and long-term needs. To manage, for example, intellectual property well, to protect it, but at the same time being able to publish and achieve the recognition that publishing provides for us. I think there's also a need for a single point of contact with academia and the university, and we're working to achieve that. We're working to achieve that, for example, in the medical devices area through the metric organisation, which brings together the two universities, UL and then Galway, Institute of Technology in this region, Sligo, Browne and Galway, and also Georgia Tech in that Browne, the Georgia Tech Institute, which is, if you like, a joint venture between Georgia Tech and UI Galway and UL. I think that collaboration and the resulting, if you like, the resulting articulation of it through the metric organisation, I think will be very powerful in terms of offering a single point of contact between the third level institutions and the industrial world. I'd like to thank Perry Smith for his work in developing metric, and also thank our colleagues in the other institutions. I already mentioned who they are, to their support for developing that initiative. Could I conclude then by saying that the university is committed to working with the BMW Assembly, to working with industry in this region, to working with other institutions in this region in a partnership model to ensure that we contribute to our region. We recognise our role as both educators and contributors in the short term through applied R&D, and we are committed to achieving that. We recognise the challenge that we face in terms of, if you like, matching the expectation of our stakeholders regionally around delivery of economic impact, while also meeting the needs of our ranking systems, the pressure they put on us. And to say finally that I want to thank all those associated with this conference, both within the BMW Assembly and within the university to assist, and wish you a very fruitful and very enjoyable couple of days in Galway. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Jim Browne for the, I think, very realistic assessment of the challenges that face the universities in terms of their role, particularly in regional economic development, and then, I suppose, in their role generally in dealing with industry. There are significant challenges. They're not insurmountable, but they are there and they need to be faced. I think our next speaker now is Councillor Cyril Burke. He's Chairperson of the BMW Regional Assembly. And again, Cyril is just going to say a few words of welcome to you here today. So,
Chairman, Professor Browne, public representatives, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honour for me to be here as Chairperson of the BMW Assembly today to welcome you here to Inniu IG Galway for our joint conference with the Centre for Innovation and Structural Change. I would like to thank Professor Browne for his opening remarks and for hosting us here today. The economic downturn has affected the regions in Ireland in different ways. A recent study by Steve McFeely of the CSO highlighted the vulnerability of the BMW region to further economic decline during its high reliance on domestic demand, public expenditure and construction. The region also suffers in particular from a low skills equilibrium, requiring careful planning to avoid large numbers of the labour force being left behind in the race towards a smart economy. If, as predicted, Ireland is to benefit from export-led growth, it is clear that the BMW region's economy will not benefit to the same extent as that of the southern and eastern region. There is a risk that disparities will widen further. The need to enhance the BMW region's innovative capacity, particularly in knowledge-based and R&D sectors, and its attractiveness to high value-added industries therefore becomes even more pressing. In order to continue to move up the value chain, Ireland clearly needs to invest in a world-class research and innovative infrastructure. And much of this investment is already underway. However, to maximise the benefit of this investment, the whole economy, we need to put in place research networks, technology transfer initiatives and incubation support in a way that is accessible to all regions, as intended under the National Spatial Strategy, so that businesses throughout the region can commercialise the benefits of this publicly funded research investment as easily as businesses in Cork or Dublin. I believe that this is the major challenge faced by regional policy and innovation policy as we move forward. The inclusion of innovation as a priority theme for the EU regional funding in the 2007-2013 programming period provides an opportunity to better integrate regional and innovational policy into the future. We are already seeing improvements in the numbers of strategic research centres and in applied research activities. Indeed, a significant portion of the 2007 to 2013 European Regional Development Fund to the BMW region is going into the research sector. The initiatives that have been introduced have the potential to greatly increase innovation levels within the private sector and also the quality and quantity of interactions with third level and research institutions. However, the BMW region has historically received a lower proportion of state-funded institutional research, and I would like to call on the government to prioritise investments in the BMW region and to take greater account of regional issues and impacts in framing national policies and investment programmes. In particular, enterprise and innovation policy. In this way, the BMW Assembly and region can fulfil its potential and make a greater contribution to the national economic growth and competitiveness, as well as raising Ireland's overall R&D performance. In the context of these challenges, the BMW Regional Assembly and the Centre for Innovation and Structural Change here in UIG Galway have worked together to put in place today's conference, which focuses on addressing the issue of making regional innovation a catalyst for economic growth both regionally and nationally. The OECD, in a recently published report on regions and innovation policy, has identified the growing recognition of the regional dimension in national innovation strategies, in harnessing localised assets and improving policy impacts. Ireland must not get left further behind in this respect. The issue of setting innovation policy only from a national perspective must be overcome. Dr. Kieran Moylan, in his presentation, will address this issue in further detail. The Regional Assembly is committed to working towards building the region's research base and innovation capacity in cooperation with the relevant authorities, educational institutions and government departments. We recognise the pivotal role that NUI Galway has to play in the region, and we look forward to working on a number of collaborative projects over the coming years, one of which will be outlined today by Professor Terry Smith in relation to an initiative in the medical technology sector. I am looking forward to hearing from our other speakers today, in particular from our keynote speaker, Dr. Gerard Fuchs from the University of Stuttgart, and also Dr. Patrick Collins from the Centre of Innovation and Structural Change here in UIG Galway. Mr. Peter Riley from Vallejo Vision Systems will provide the industry perspective and also discuss how their engagement with NUIG Galway through a recently signed strategic research agreement is progressing. Finally, I would like to thank you all for attending here today, and I would encourage all delegates to the conference to participate in the panel discussions that will be held at the end of each session. We need all the ideas that we can get to feed into this important debate. I am certain that it will be both informative and interesting. Thank you very much.